So I decided to start a lyric journal. I've loved music all my life. I've always liked pop music, the top 40 countdown in Australia when I was a little kid with my pink cassette deck, just trying to record my, favourite songs, what's going to be number one this week. I was always really into that, and I spent hours and hours alone in my bedroom just reading lyrics in the cassette, the little flip out that used to come in the cassettes, if you remember, or CDs when we got to that point as well. And so I've also really been wanting to spend more time with my fountain pens. I don't really want to use them in my everyday. I just feel like I can skip across the page much more quickly with my little Uni 1 pocket pens, and they're better for my hands as well. I think you'll see when you watch this video a few times I'm stretching my fingers out because they're cramping. So there's a few reasons why I've started this book. Maybe I'll just go back to the book for a second. So this is a Midori A6 book with the grid. It's kind of a pale blue grid, and you can see the paper is very creamy. It's really nice paper. I do love the Midori paper, and I've bought quite a few of these books. I've got it housed here in the Hollyhocks cover from Hobonichi. This came out in 2023 for the 2024 calendar year. So I love this cover. I did not like it when I first saw it, but it kept growing on me and growing on me, so I added it to an order and just had to have it. So at this point here, I'm just adding the title of the song using the Shikori pen, and it's got two ends, a brush end and then a very, very fine tip end. Maybe too fine for what I'm doing here, I think. But I wanted this journal to A, record lyrics, B, record my thoughts about lyrics, and C, just play with my fountain pen inks in particular. If you didn't know, I'm a creative ambassador for Ferris Wheel Press. I haven't done a video with any inks in a long time. I've kind of been in a different space, I guess, but I'm so keen to get them all out and go through them again. This was my favorite. This is called the Velvet Ballet. It came out a while ago. It's just beautiful. It's a pinky red, but it has this silver sheen, and it's just gorgeous. I really, really love it. So I've just loaded it up here in my pen, and my plan is going to be that each week I will, maybe not each week, maybe each month, I'll choose a new song and just write out the lyrics. I showed my friend this on the weekend, and she said, wow, you're writing it out all in a line rather than separating it into, the chorus and the verses. And that was intentional. I kind of just wanted to fill the page with text. I really love how, oh, there you go, I'm just fixing my hand because it's sore already after 5 lines I've started writing there. I just wanted to fill the page with text because I like how the paper can get a little crinkly. Now, it's not Hobonichi paper, so it's not crinkling anywhere near as much as I'd like it to, but there's still a little texture to the page by having the ink there, and that it's just something that makes me happy, so why not do that? So I've chosen this song, All Too Well by Taylor Swift, and I feel like I'm going to have a lot of Taylor Swift in this particular lyric journal. In fact, I know I will. I think I want to just do Taylor Swift songs in this particular book. Whether you like Taylor Swift as a singer or not, I think if you spend any time in the lyrics, you can see what a good songwriter she is. Her storytelling is just beautiful. Her language that she uses is stunning. I really love the way she uses words, and words is really, it's one of my favorite things, right? I'm always reading things and I kind of notice discrepancies in words. I'm really good at picking up spelling mistakes and things like that. Maybe not in my own stuff, but definitely when I'm editing others. I'm a good proofreader. But I do love words, and I love how people put words together. I love the poetry of that, the musicality, and I just thought that recording Taylor's words in a book was just something that I really want to do for myself. And who knows, I may extend this beyond just Taylor Swift in the future, but for now, that's my feeling. That's what I want to do. What I sadly discovered when I was getting to the end of the song, writing it out, is that I have chosen the original version rather than the 10-minute version. And the 10-minute version is, I mean, if you know it, you know that it's spectacular. And so some of those lyrics that are in the 10-minute version are not in this one. And I'm a bit disappointed in myself that I didn't record those. But I will, in a few songs' time, I think I'll come back and do the 10-minute version as well. I have to say, though, it's probably good that I didn't. There we go, stretching the fingers again, because my hand really, really cramped up throughout this process. And the 10-minute version would have been a few more pages, I suspect, which might have hurt me even more. So I was talking through the reasons why, apart from just the beauty of lyrics, which I just love. I want to improve my handwriting. I can't seem to be consistent. Like if you look through my handwriting in this book, in this text that I'm writing in this video, the letters aren't consistent at all. I don't dislike my handwriting. I quite like the loopiness that I've got in some letters, and I think overall it's fine. But I just like to make it more consistent. I love when you see people's hand lettering where it's just perfectly consistent. Consistent's the word I have to say here. Sometimes my D's have a loop in them, sometimes they're just straight, and I'd prefer that they all have the loop, for example. Maybe I'm a little cramped in my writing as well. Perhaps I could be expanding that a little, and therefore there'd be less words on each line. And maybe it's the size of the grid that I'm working in too. There's lots of different things to explore, I think, in the future. Something else that I discovered with this particular song that I'm writing out here and with this pen is that I'm using a fine nib with this beautiful Ferris wheel press ink, and the ink just doesn't seem to be super compatible with a fine nib. It's got this shearing properties, so there's little particles of shine, glorious shine, in the ink, and so the fine nib just doesn't give that a chance to come out and shine, no pun intended, but it doesn't really give it a chance to really have its moment. So the red isn't coming out. So I've been through all my pens and found, I think a broad nib is the next one I'm going to go with, and with a different ink and a different song. So if you know All Too Well, it's a very autumnal song. It's kind of set in autumn. It's from the Red album. There's a lot of autumn vibes going on in the film clip, the original film clip in particular. And so I really wanted to use this particular colour with this particular song. I mean, so much thought went into this beforehand about how I wanted it to look and what I wanted it to do. But then some parts of it, there's no thought whatsoever, and it's just so kind of happening as the video is running. So this video is in real time. I've only cut out the bits where I've either refilled the ink or I'm waiting for the page to dry. That's pretty much the only pieces that I've cut out. Oh, and a couple of pieces where I've really had to stretch my hand out because it was getting incredibly cramped. So I think we have 30 minutes of footage here of me writing out this song. So it took me that long to do 3 pages basically. It's coming out to 2.5 pages. And the half page that I have left I'll use for recording my thoughts on the song. I kind of want to keep that to myself because it's quite personal. If you're a music person, I think you know that songs can be very personal. They can evoke certain memories, and maybe sometimes those are memories you don't want to share, or you just want to keep for yourself because they're so personal to you, and it's nice sometimes to have things for yourself. So yeah, here we go. We're almost finishing the first page, and I can tell you that by now my hand is incredibly sore. And that was one of the other things I was trying to do with this process is more practice with a pen in my hand. I'm a planner, I'm a journaler, and I use pens all the time, but it's usually not for extended periods. Often when you're planning or journaling, for me anyway, I'm putting the pen down to cut something, glue something, peel a sticker off, cut some washi, all those kinds of things. So it's not consistent writing. And so I feel like I've lost some of those muscles, some of those things aren't working the way they used to. And I don't know if you can tell here, but my fingers are quite swollen as well. So I have an autoimmune thing that can cause swelling in my fingers. In real life tonight, they're so much better than they are in the video. So I was having a little trouble with that in particular when I was filming this. Oh, I forgot about this part. Okay, so I'm getting this little eyedropper out, and I'm kind of squeezing it up and down just to mix up those particles of shine. And I think next time I'll do this a little differently. I don't love the way it turned out. So I'm just getting some ink in this eyedropper, and I'm going to swatch it sort of on this left-hand page. So I'll probably stick with this same kind of format in the future, but I'm going to do the swatch differently. I had in my ink journal, which I've kind of let slide, I put down a little bit of water first and then add the ink to the water, and that allowed the ink to kind of move around a little rather than just staying all in one spot. So I didn't get to see the beautiful shine so much in this particular swatch, which is unfortunate, and I really don't like the shape that I've made there. I think that's just ick, but that's okay. And I also don't love this part when I'm writing out the Velvet Ballet with this brush pen. I just don't like this left page at all, but it's okay. It is what it is, and this whole process is kind of a learning exercise for me, and I'm hoping for you as well. You can, join me in this kind of, I don't know how often it's going to be. I'd say monthly by the time I have time to film things. Maybe a monthly sit-down session with a song and getting to know the song really well. This one I know inside out. It's just it's been on repeat. If you know, there's times where you just need one song and that's all you need, and it's on repeat in the car. It's on my Spotify all the time. It's just constantly playing. So here I was trying to just make some paler swatches, but I used kitchen paper towel, and it's so absorbent that it wouldn't let it out again once it sucked it up. So I think next time I'll use some maybe some plastic or something like that to make some more splotches at the bottom of the page. But I've just written out the name of the ink as well as Ferris Wheel Press, and then it has the name of the ink in French as well. So I've written that out too. So now I'm just continuing on with the lyrics. It's in the middle of a sentence even. Like I said, I'm just writing it out in a full string, like just line after line after line. I'm not separating it into verses and choruses. I just wanted to see like a wall of text. I just like the look of a lot of text on a page. I am keen to see how this changes over time, as in how my style changes over time. I don't know whether I'd switch to printing sometimes. I think a bit further down this page, I think I call out some lyrics that are my favorites in the short version of the song. My actual favorites are in the long version of the song, but I do call them out later on, and I do that in print rather than cursive, and I use that other pen as well to do that. But I'm not happy with the way that turned out particularly. But I'm also not, I'm not making, I'm not getting anxiety over or anything. I'm totally cool with how it's turned out because, like I said, it's going to be like a learning thing for me. And I really can't wait to see how things change over time, how the style changes, how my writing changes, and if I change up any way that I do this. I kind of have a vision of the title of the song being in different places on the page, perhaps, and just filling the text around it. Actually, a long time ago, I made some page lifters for my ring planners, and I did those with my Mink foiler. So I just printed the lyrics. I used a scripty font to write the name of the song in the middle of the page, and then I used like a typewriter font to fill in the actual lyrics across the whole page from top to bottom. And then I foiled it in like a pink to gold gradient, or a pink to rose gold gradient maybe. And I did that with a few different songs, and I just loved the way it turned out. And I also loved the way the negative turned out, the piece of foil left over at the end that had all the lyrics, had taken the foil away and just left this white space where all the lyrics had been. So I actually remember laminating that piece of foil as well, so that I had, the positive and the negative, if you like. It's lyrics is just something that I've always kind of lived with. My dad had a record player when we were kids, of course, and only he was allowed to touch it. Only he was allowed to change the needles. I remember one day when he finally let me turn one over and play the other side. It was really quite a big system. It had these big wooden speakers. There's something about timber speakers and the sound that they make. It's a beautiful, beautiful sound. And I'll always remember the way that sounded in our living room. Dad's not a Taylor Swift fan. Unfortunately, he's more country than that. But maybe he'd enjoy some of her early stuff. I don't know. So I don't have a record player. I grew up with cassettes, and I think my first cassette I ever purchased was, I think it was Michael Jackson's Dangerous album. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% certain. Oh no, I did have one of my own records. I had the Bangles on vinyl when they first came out. And I was still in school. I was still in primary school when that came out. And I had a little collection of vinyl records, but as you move house and move house and move house, some things get left behind. I have thought about picking up a record player again and finding some of the old classics that I loved as a teenager and in my 20s, but I'm not sure I have the space for it really. And Spotify is just or Apple Music, or whatever your flavor is, it's just so easy, right? It's just such a simple, at your fingertips kind of thing. So, but again, I was talking to my friends about this, and what you miss with that is the liner notes and the inserts that come in the CD that you fold out and you sit and read all the lyrics and live through each song. That's missing these days in Spotify. I know you can, watch the lyrics on your television or whatever, but it's not quite the same as sitting there and just going through them and, pulling apart every little piece and overanalyzing your own life and how it fits to the lyrics. I love it. I just love it. And I think that's one of the reasons, like I said, why I love this song in particular, but also Taylor Swift's entire songwriting journey that she's going through. I think you can relate to almost any song that she has. There's so much that you can relate to. It's really quite amazing. Okay, so now I've switched to the Sailor Shikiori brush pen, but using the small tip to write out some particularly poignant lyrics. Like I said, I'm not super happy with this part, so I'll have to think of how I'm going to do that next time for the next song. And I'm not sure what the next song will be, although it might be one off the new album potentially. If you have a favourite Taylor Swift song, I'd love to hear what it is, if you want to tell me in the comments. There's so many to choose from. And if you're not into Taylor Swift, then I apologise. But yeah, let me know some of your favourites. I'm always keen to hear what... I mean, all music is cool. I love all music. There's a few genres that I'm not super excited about, but, people put together the coolest stuff, and it's all worthy, isn't it? It's all just something that someone has gone through and they've decided to write about it. It's just great. It's just life in words and music. It's beautiful. So it was a tough decision on whether to go Hobonichi or Midori paper. Given that I wanted to use fountain pens, I probably should have gone with Hobonichi. I do really prefer how fountain pen ink looks on Hobonichi paper. It's far less absorbent, so the ink kind of sits on top of the paper, whereas the Midori paper is, it is more absorbent. The ink kind of sinks into the paper. So at some point, I don't know if you can really see it in the video, but the color, well, maybe not the color, but just the amount of ink coming out of that fine nib is just not the same. So it kind of just, to me, it looks quite messy because that change happens in the flow of the ink that's coming through that nib. So I'm really keen to see how it goes with a broad or a medium nib next time. I think I've got the broad one set aside, but I know I have medium nibs as well. So I'll take a look through at all the pens and I'll figure out what's the best one to use next time. But it's definitely going to be a medium or a broad. The broad is quite broad, so I feel like it's probably too much ink for that small grid, although it is much bigger grid than the Hobonichi one, of course. So I think this is a 5mm grid in the Midori notebooks. You can see my two little passport TNs off to the side there. I've got the bottom one is the blue one. I'm not sure if you can tell that it's blue. And it's the first one that I purchased. It's just, I've got it right here next to me. It's such a beautiful little notebook. And the passport size is just... Oh, Gidget's sneezing. I'm so sorry. The passport size TN is... it's so tactile. It's just this beautiful little thing that fits perfectly in the palm of your hand. It's my planner companion. I've got a video coming about that, but I've got others on my channel as well about a planner companion. And yeah, I've just recently kind of updated it for 2024. And then the olive one on top, I'm not sure if you can tell that that's olive either. That is the olive passport TN. It's currently got a, I think it's a Sterling ink notebook in there, one of the little chunky ones, and with the gold edge. And I was using it to track all of my stationery purchases and any income that I have from stationery things. So I'm an affiliate for Kubo and Lucy and Ferris Wheel Press, of course. So, and something else I'm just forgetting off the top of my head. So, I was kind of just tracking, and of course YouTube as well, tracking what income I was getting and how much I was spending. Unfortunately, the spending is a lot more than the income, but you know, that's the way it is. So yeah, I'm trying to think of a use for that little tiny TN, the olive one, because at the moment it's not really being used. It's sitting here next to me as well on the in my little journal setup, but I don't really have a use for it at the moment. But that's okay. I don't know if I've talked about this recently, but for me, the planner covers are there to use when you want to use. If you want to switch it up from one to another, like if I decide I want to move away from the Hollyhocks cover that this lyric journal is in and move into, say, my Anone, or into one of my older ones that I've had for years, then that's cool. And this one can sit on the shelf and have a rest for a while. For me, it's a bit like a handbag. I think that's what I've said in the past. The season of life that you're in, or just your mood, whatever you feel like doing, you can have a change up. Sometimes changing a book, a cover at least, and the setup is the best way to get started in a book again or a journal again. Sometimes I find I fall away from my plans and I stop using it for, a week or two or sometimes longer. And I do find that if I just change up the setup a little bit, change the cover out, it just invigorates everything and makes you feel like using it again. So I think that's a good tip for people who have kind of just strayed away for a while. It's a good way to get back into it. I think we're coming to the end here of the song. I think we get to about half of this page from memory. My hand is pretty cramped at this point, and you can kind of see, I think, that the handwriting is getting worse. I think before when I was talking about consistency, that some letters are different every time I write them. It's also the slant of the writing as well. So mostly my writing is quite up and down, but occasionally it slants either back or forward. Like I feel like there's no rhyme or reason to how it goes. And so those things I'd like to get better at as well, just be more consistent in. I think the straight up and down is my preference. I don't really like, I'm just going to use italics in inverted commas right now. I'm not a huge fan of italics, so they're slanted to the right, and I definitely don't want to slant to the left. So I think straight up and down is my preference, but I do like a bit of curl and loop in my letters as well. So it doesn't really matter, does it? But it's just a preference of mine, and I want to try and make my hand a little better at writing. It's pretty sore. It doesn't help that with the autoimmune thing I get these swollen fingers, and that makes it pretty hard to hold a pen like this. One of the reasons why I really like the Uni One pocket pens, the 1P, those are chunky and they're kind of just the right thickness to hold for writing for me. So that's what I typically use when I'm writing a lot, like in my planner companion, for example, and in each of my week's journals as well. I use the pocket in those because of the size of the pen. I don't know if you can tell here as well, but it looks like the nib, and I didn't notice this until I was watching the video back. The nib, I'm holding not straight up and down with the page. The nib is turned to the left quite a bit. So if you're a fountain pen user, let me know, is that changing the way the ink's coming out? I feel like if it was straight up and down, I would have a better flow of ink. but I don't know if that's true. I'm going to try to do that next time. I didn't actually know while I was writing that it was happening this way. I did, I couldn't see the turn on the nib, so I will, look into that a little more when I do the next one. I'm actually really excited to do the next one. All right, so that's the end of All Too Well, the end of my lyrics here. And yeah, like I said, not a fan of the left page at all, but it's okay. It's fine. And yeah, you can really see the inconsistency across the page there. It's quite, I don't know, it doesn't look like the same person wrote the whole thing to me. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know if you've done something similar. And yeah, again, let me know your favourite songs. I'd love to hear more about it. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you soon.